Hey guys, and welcome to an epic showdown between the two mighty commanders. On the left hand side, representing Extreme Meme Team and the Dark Elves, it is Mr. Dactyr himself, the God of War, up against Bossy Veng and the Lizardmen forces, a man after my own heart, leading the warriors with the mighty God of War himself, Kroq-Gar. So how will Dactyr deal with the greatest and most awesome Lizardman Lord in the universe? Let's have a little look. So for his main battle line, he's gone for a mixture of cheap and cheerful and elite and badass. We have Dread Spears dotted on the flanks, or at least just one flank, and Black Arc Corsairs on the other, but his central pocket is as elite as it comes. We have 2 units of Blackguard of Nagarons. These guys not only look unbelievably regal, badass, and deadly, they certainly live up to their names, and they can slaughter enemy Saurus as well as large creatures with deadly efficiency. And in that central pocket, we have some Witch Elves to rampage larger creatures and blend through skinks and other units. On the right hand side, we have some Dark Riders with repeater crossbows, and I've been a bit harsh on these guys in the past in this matchup. I think they can get counter skirmished very well. It looks like he has 2 units, one on either flank, but to counteract this, Dactyr has a pretty interesting build. In the back lines, he has triple Cold One Knights, but up in the skies, to really help his Dark Riders perform rather well, we have double Feral Manticore, which is certainly going to be pretty good at aiding those skirmishes and enabling them to escape and get pretty decent damage. And for his Lord option, we have a basic arse Dread Lady on mighty Pegasus here. She's going to be coming in with absolutely nothing, just murderous prowess, so a completely naked combat Dreadlord to try and snipe out enemy casters and characters with the help of the double Feral Manticore, and we have a Sorceress of Beasts with Manticore Summon and Wilson's Wild Form. Of course, Manticore Summon did get nerfed a little while back and is a bit more expensive now than it originally was, but it's still one of the best spells in the game. For the forces of the Lizardmen, I'm a big fan of the majority of this guy's build. Triple Chameleon Skinks. Chameleon Skinks are a nightmare to deal with. Coming with huge missile resistance, can counter skirmish enemy Dark Rider cavalry, and also shades, all that good stuff. And they do huge damage as well to these Feral Manticores up in the skies if they get good engagements against them. We have Skink Cohorts and Saurus Warriors with spears dotted all the way along the front line, so relatively cheap, cheerful, happy to be here in the name of the old ones to slay some pointy-eared princesses. And we have double Feral Bastildon, which normally I rave about these guys and say they're pretty good value for money. I'm not the biggest fan in this matchup because there's so much long-range armor piercing which can whittle them down, but at least if your opponent is focused firing them, they're not focused firing your other more precious units like these triple Cold One Riders. So I'm going to see Cold Ones up against Cold Ones. These are not the spear variety, however, but with good support they should still be able to do a pretty decent job in the cavalry engagement. With a Skink Priest of Beast with a Manticore Summon himself, but also Pan's Impenetrable Pelt, a spell you don't get to see terribly often, but really useful. Extra physical resistance and speed will help Kroq-Gar get out of some dangerous situations. And here is the man, the myth, the dino, the legend himself, roaring a battle cry as Grimlock starts to bound forward. Coming in, of course, with Hand of the Gods, a very powerful blast spell ability, which is basically like an overcasted Chim's Burning Gaze. It's very powerful. He has the swiftness of Itzel, Deadly Onslaught, as well as the sacred spawning of Hwattle. So without further ado, let's get this battle underway. And in come the Dark Riders. Now, good use of their time is actually going into combat against Chameleon Skinks to try and whittle them down, but they are going to fall back, taking the minimal losses, tiny little bit of poke damage, but luckily the Cold One Knights are here to aid and support. They certainly don't want to get tussle with those Saurus Spear Riders. Up in the skies, the Manticores are going to be falling back from any range pressure. Probably a little surprised not to see any Bastildons with solar engines, so they're going to be falling back, and somehow the Chameleon Skinks do get tied up with Black Arc Corsairs. These guys need to pull back as quickly as possible, but in come the Feral Bastildons, smashing and pounding their way through those Dark Elf formations, and that big old tail is slaughtering and watering the ground with Dark Elf blood. Looks like the Manticores as well, though, as the Dread Lady. Maybe trying to snipe out the Chameleon Skinks in the back line. Oh no, they're going after the Skink Priest, which is a really good use of their time. You can see the front line has got underway as well, dotted all the way along. But this is the key engagement here. Skink Priest of Beast does get flung back, and the double Manticore attempting to assassinate him. He has summoned his own bodyguard here in an aid to try and resist where possible. But this is a bad situation. In come the Cold One Riders, however, as well as Kroq-Gar, and Kroq-Gar is an angry beast. He doesn't like anyone picking on his Skink Priest little buddy, so he's going to be dancing into combat and hunting down this Dreadlord. Should be able to do some pretty good damage straight out of the gate. And my god, that lady is getting slaughtered. This Manticore needs to dart down now, help finish the deal. He should be able to get the Feral Manticore as well as the Dread Spear here for his troubles, doing some huge damage straight out of the gate. Cold One Spear Riders as well need to continue that surround, and it looks like the Dread Lady may go down here. She's terrified. Grimlock is angry. He roars victorious, and the Apex Predator coming in with that Deadly Onslaught should be able to finish her off for good. Down to just 340 health, and down she goes. Kroq-Gar feeds feasting happy tonight. But while this has all been going on, we've been ignoring the front line engagement, and so has the Lizardman player. Feral are engaged with Blackguard of Nagrond, and the front line is dominated by the Dark Elf forces. It looks like those Dark Riders have got themselves into good positions. Focus firing down the larger threats like the Cold One Riders, although on this side some more are pushing through, but overextending a little bit here. We have double Cold One Knights who can countercharge rather effectively back and finish these guys off. And they're still rampaging more and more forward. Dark Riders are wheeling about face now to engage, whittle them down and do some really nice damage. So despite the nice kind of punch in the back lines, taking down that Lord and doing some really nice damage to the Manticores. Unfortunately, it has cost the Lizardmen and they've lost literally everywhere else. I mean, this flank's not doing too bad, but it's so isolated away from the main fight. There's not too much going on. And these Dark Riders, there is nothing pressuring them. They can just rain holy fire down upon these poor Cold One Riders. They're getting slaughtered. Now Krokgar going balls to the wall, Leroy Jenkins style, roaring and charging into the fray, desperately trying to rescue some of his teammates, but he's now surrounded by Witch Elves who can rampage him, Blackguard and Nagron, Feral Manticores, Cold Ones, but he's not going down without a scrap. Popping the Swiftness of Itzel, and the Sacred Spawn Pan's Impenetrable Pelt is active, trying to give him a somewhat decent stabilization, but he is now rampaged because of those Witch Elves, and now the Dark Riders have absolute free reign. A Manticore summon is active, and this could be the character snipe to counteract the enemy character snipe. Commander Skinks are pushing forward though in a desperate attempt to aid and support, and because of this commitment in this main blob down here, a lot of the other Dark Elf forces are slowly getting mopped up, and somehow Krokgar managed to escape. Cold-Blood is popped on him by the Skink Priest, meaning he comes out of that rampage. Pan's Impenetrable Pelt on him as well. He took an absolute beating, but he has managed to survive at least a little while longer. Chameleon Skinks are now being hunted down by Cold One Knight, and I hear a Hand of the Gods go down, and a big old crash. What was it going into? A Feral Manticore who was desperately returned to the field. Not the type of warm welcome he was expecting. Feral Manticore summon has gone down here by the Skink Priest, who cackles and laughs as he does so. Looks like he may be coming into this main blob, and the Dark Elf Infantry Corps, though, is looking very scary. A lot of the Lizardmen forces are being forced back and shattered. Cold One Riders done for, Chameleon Skinks done for. A few more, though, will be able to rally in the late game. And dotted around the battlefield, there is a lot of Lizardmen pockets of strength, which can come back to the fray, but it is rather scary stuff, especially for the mighty Krokgar, who's got to always be on the lookout for these Dark Riders with their crossbows. They are running a little bit low on ammunition. Sacred Spawn has been popped as well as Deadly Onslaught. It looks like he's surrounded by Cold One Knights as well as the Feral Manticore, but Krokgar slapping that tail down, slaughtering some of these Dark Elves, roaring victorious. Grimlock showing the universe while he is the apex predator, and he may be able to break this section. Looks like Cold One Knights are in fact terrified, and there are Saurus Spears approaching, and down goes the Manticore summon. Cold One Dread Knights terrified away, and I do not blame them. Krokgar is just the badass at the moment, trying to carry this game on his back. Chameleon Skinks are firing in to the Dark Riders, a perfect target for them. Break these guys off, force them down, and Krokgar will survive a little while longer yet, although the double Black Guard is going to be a huge problem here for the force of the Lizardmen. It's going to have to be a ton of cycle charging by some of these larger entities, as well as the cavalry into the rear to really break up these units. There's no magic on the table, which does real big burst damage. The Skink Priest, if he had Flock of Doom here, would be in a much better situation. Dark Riders once again pushing forward, trying to get damage onto the mighty Krokgar where possible. Chameleon Skinks kind of getting distracted, trying to chase this secondary unit off, who may be able to rally. Looks like the Feral Manticore is going to disappear, and as soon as that happens, the Dark Riders do return to the field, which is a disaster for the Lizardmen forces. Balance power is very even. In comes the Cold One Riders into the rear. This is a really good idea to try and break the leadership of the Black Guard, but you cannot stick in this combat. They need to pull back out already, and then cycle charge once more back into the fray. Krokgar down over on this flank, though, does butcher some Witch Elves, laughs manically in their faces, but does take a few bolts to the flank. Sacred Spawn give them a little bit of protection there, however. Good Dark Rider use so far, some masterful Dark Rider use from Dacta, but he is a Wood Elf main as well, so you know his micro is going to be disgustingly good, especially with this type of unit. Krokgar down to 760 health, still somehow clinging on. Looks like he flings the Sorceress in towards the Saurus and the Skinks, and the Saurus are slowly going down to the Black Guard. A nice use of Wilson's Wild Form, though, to turn them into more lawnmower units. Chameleon Skinks trying to float out to this flank to help protect Krokgar where possible. Looks like there's a Feral Manticore who did get forgotten about in the distance. Is he now flying back? No, he's just vibing out on the flanks. He could be crucial here. There's not too much to stop him coming in and assassinating Krokgar, unless he does have another Hand of the Gods ready to beam him down on the approach, make him rampage, so forth. Skink cohort in the distance need to return to the field. Looks like some Cauldron Riders are emerging as well. And it looks like we are going to be getting Pan's Impenetrable Pelt on the Saurus. Just as the Dark Riders come in to attempt to break them, their leadership will be wavering at this point. But the Dark Riders, see, this is really good use of them. It hits and immediately bounces out, applies that leadership debuff, breaks those Saurus Spearmen, but doesn't stay in the engagement where they can lose damage, which we saw the Cauldron Riders kind of not doing earlier on and getting dragged down. Krogar down to just 174 health. He is so low at this point. Sacred Spawning has been popped on him. Really well-timed play so far by the Lizardman player, who's given as good as he gets here. Chameleon Skinks unleashing hell once more. Dark Riders are out of ammunition, so now you just need to focus down those Blackguard where possible. Get them off the field because they are the scary beasties that are left. Dark Riders, though, going to be coming to overrun the Skink cohort. In comes Krogar. He is vengeful and going to be trying to snap up with his mighty jaws some of the Dark Riders, but looks like he does break simply due to how beat up he is at this point, as the core strength of the Saurus Spear fails the Lizardmen forces. There's nothing now protecting these Chameleon Skinks, and it is simply the Skink Priest on her own, or his own I should say. A Flock of Doom would have been a really nice pick because he would have had a couple in the belt by this point, or under his belt, and the Blackguard probably would be breaking and running for the hills at this point. You can see one unit already is. Good diligent play by the Skink cohort, taking this rather beat up unit and just chasing off the Blackguard, ensuring they won't come back to the fray. There are some Saurus Warriors available as well, so if Krogar can return, and he has, it looks like a lot of Dark Elf forces are actually breaking. Dark Riders running away from the hills. These Blackguard, 41 of them is all that remains, but they could get a cycle charge. Looks like the Sorcerer of the Beast may be being eyed up by Grimlock there. He's a big fan of the Dark Elf Boutte, but the problem is that gigantic Ferromanticore in the background, and he's going to be a big match winner. In comes Grotkar, slapping that Sorcerer. Get away from my buddy. He's been a real good bodyguard for the Skink Priest, who's been attacked throughout the game by all the Dark Elf monsters, as well as their leadership, but Krogar's not having any of it. If he has a Hand of the Gods left, he needs to pop it on this Ferromanticore, try and rampage it down into the Spearmen, otherwise he's simply going to hunt down Krogar. Apologise for the sirens in the distance if you can hear them. I do live next to a police station and hospital. Dark Riders are being used rather effectively here to run over those Chameleon Skinks, and Krogar, run buddy, run! Okay, looks like the Manticore has committed to the Saurus Riders fight. He needs to come in with the counter charge now. Hand of the Gods, please, needs to be active. Come on, Krogar! But I don't know if he has one left. He may have used one up earlier on in the battle. He does charge in, and he manages to slap that Ferromanticore straight across the face. Grimlock is roaring. He's King Kong right now. He doesn't care who you are. He's the king of the beasts, king of the jungle, and king of the desert. It seems somehow beating down a pretty much full health Ferromanticore with only 100 HP or so left active. Deadly Onslaught, Swiftness, it's all active, trying to keep him alive. Down to 16 health, still fighting to the death though. But down he goes. The elite Blackguard seal the deal. 180 kills on them is disgusting. Now, is there any way left in this for the forces of the Lizardmen? It looks very unlikely to me. Yes, the Skink cohort can engage, and if again there was one or two Flock of Dooms, maybe there was a chance. But without Flock of Doom, we can see the poor corpse of Grimlock. He shall be reborn into a new life, I'm sure. The old ones aren't done with you yet, little buddy. What a sad sight. That's some horrible stuff right there. Skink Priest is going to be dancing around, cackling, having a good time, dancing over those Dark Riders, but the Skink cohort with Pan's Impenetrable Pelt trying to give as good as they get, but they are simply no match for the far more elite Dark Elf warriors left on the field. Saurus can only plod forward as well before shattering and breaking, and that is certainly going to be a game. I don't think there's anything left on the field. It simply is the Skink Priest who is alive and healthy. I mean, a lot of the Dark Elf forces are wavering, but this unit of 35 Blackguard is simply going to be too much. So we're just going to fast forward here because we know what's going to happen. And a Pyrrhic victory for Dacta and the Dark Elves. Whew. I don't know about you guys, that was wild. That was absolutely insane. Very well played to the mighty Dacta, whipping out the Dark Elves with a glorious victory, as well as a bossy Veng. Apologise if I am butchering your name, but some really nice play by him. Masterful play by Krogar. We'll get into all the stats and stuff in just a second, but I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, feel free to give the video a big old thumbs up and subscribe for more Total War Warhammer content. You can also comment down below what you thought of the battle, what you'd like to see in the future. I do read through all the comments. I can no longer reply to them all, but I do really enjoy going through them all and seeing what you guys thought on the battle and so forth. You can feel free to join my Discord as well, link down below if you want to send in replays like Dacta did this one to see it up on the channel in the future, or get involved in tournaments and other events I do host. And you can support me on Patreon, link down below, or on YouTube. But anyway, let's have a little look at the build. So Krogar, absolute beast. Picked up this game, put it in his rucksack, swung it over his shoulder, was like, Grimlock, let's go. Nearly managed to pull it off here. 11,000 damage dealt is very impressive stuff. 3,000 damage value is wild. killed both the Dark Elf leadership here of the Sorceress and the Dread Lady here. Also managed to do fantastic damage to the Manticores, and which is a huge battlefield presence throughout, a real rock in the centre of this Lizardman force, which did kind of suffer under the sheer weight of pressure of Dacta's advance, but very well played by him. Kroq-Gar, absolute MVP of this battle, of course. I may be slightly biased because he's my favourite lord in the game, but that's another matter. King Priest of Beast as well did what he's meant to do. Pan's Impenetrable Pelt and Manticore summons, which were used rather well. Apart from that, the Skinks did really suffer. The Saurus as well fared a little bit better. Chameleon Skinks had a bit of a mixed affair. Some of them weren't doing too good. Other ones doing fantastic. We can see 1,200 damage on this one, but one of the others, only 375, getting overrun by this sheer mobility of this Dark Elf build. Cotton Riders as well kind of suffered under the fate that they were up against the anti-large Cold One Knights. If these guys had spears, it could have certainly been a different story. And unfortunately, the Ferrobastodons, normally I'm a big fan of this unit. It's super cheap for what it does, pushes into the back line, causes a lot of havoc, but up against a force of Dark Elves who are so mobile and can bring those Dark Riders, they're just going to get focused down and kind of pulled into the dirt, unfortunately. So cutting these two, upgrading these guys to Spearmen, and maybe adding in 1 or 2 more units with the leftover money, I think would be for an advantage. But despite that, very well played, masterful play with Kroq-Gar, proven he is a true champ there. Dreadlord, unfortunately, 6 damage value, just getting absolutely slaughtered, a little over eager from Dacta, trying to assassinate the Skink Priest, which if you can get him and he holds his ground, doesn't get flung all over the place, so he doesn't take that damage. If he can stay on his feet and you do the burst damage to him, it would have been a lovely play. Taking immediately away those Manticore summons from the Lizardmen would have put the Dark Elves in a very dominant position, but unfortunately he did get sniped out early, but reacted fantastically by just butchering the enemy front line and almost assassinating Kroq-Gar back as well. Nice use of the Witch Elves to rampage his enemy, but the Black Guard, 1,500 damage value, 11,000 damage dealt, and 94 kills. And on this side, 13k damage dealt, 1,400 damage value, nearly 200 kills. Disgusting stuff from these elite badass warriors. Cold One Knights did a pretty solid job across the board, some of them struggling to get their value back. Of course, Kroq-Gar went over there, said hello, and kind of slaughtered them a little bit. But the real kind of units, I think, which won this game, yes, the Manticores did pretty good. And coming back at the end, I'm so surprised how quickly it went down though to Kroq-Gar at the end. But the real kind of way Dacta managed to win this game was due to his fantastic micromanagement of the Dark Riders. I can say some first-hand experience, if you're going up against Dacta, prepare for skirmishers because he will use them and he will slaughter you with them. And as you can see, these guys got insane value. 9k damage value, 1,700 damage dealt, 1,800 damage dealt here, or value, sorry, and 9.6k damage dealt. Scary stuff from these guys. Got on top of those key targets, force off the Bastiodons, force off the cavalry, force off Kroq-Gar, and then it was allowing his better infantry corps to beat back the Lizardmen and drag down the larger creatures. Anyway guys, until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.